What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Data Dash, and today is January 6th of 2019. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are. We've got a wide variety of topics to discuss about here on the daily update for both crypto and traditional markets. For crypto, I want to spend some time to talk about the recent moves we've seen in Bitcoin. We just saw a big move on the hourly back above 4,000, and now we're above the 50-day moving average. So I'm going to talk about what that means for cryptocurrency markets. But outside of that, we've got some tech talk that we have to go through in regards to Wimble. We have the first cryptocurrency implementing Wimble technology. Though the name might sound funny, it is a very important piece of technology, and we'll talk about some of the traits that come with it. Along with that, some news going on in the OTC space for cryptocurrencies. But outside of that as well, we got to talk about the continued volatility in equities, as well as the rapid decline in condo sales in a well-known city in Canada known as Vancouver. So we've got lots of things to discuss. Let's not push it off any longer and dive right in to the update. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and spend some time first by taking a look over cryptocurrency markets. Over the past hour, we can see Bitcoin is up 5.3%. Obviously, again, guys, it's pretty standard kind of bar chart candle, up 5% here, and we can see altcoins are following as well. I don't know, again, if this is fundamental in the sense of setting up a longer-term trend, guys. I really don't think so. But in the short term, this is going to probably lead us towards our target we were discussing back a few weeks ago of around $5,000. We just got above the 50-day moving average, which we'll take a look at in just a bit. But again, over the past hour, 24 hours, in the past 7 days, still making upticks in this market. And you can see that reflected in overall market cap. We're looking to retest the highs we saw back in December towards the end of the year for 2018. And it looks like market cap wants to rally up to a higher level that we're going to probably going to be hitting resistance somewhere in the upper $100 billion range. I don't think we'll hit $200 billion very easily. So I think we're going to be testing towards this range first, which is, again, a nice leap for crypto markets in this case. But again, it's going to be a matter of whether or not markets can really, hold strength at those levels, which I feel we're going to have a difficult time with. But in the short term, there's some potential room for speculation. So I'm excited to see that, not to mention the lack of serious volatility in this case. It might be a nice steady uptrend. One thing I do want to point out here is that Bitcoin dominance is still holding along this line at 50%. Again, we're waiting for a break on this to get really confident on altcoins. I think it's more likely than not, as markets pick up, that altcoins do gain dominance. That's tended to be what happens. But we have been seeing with Ethereum, and some people are even pointing towards Litecoin at the moment, and XRP, that some of the larger altcoins are actually really gaining the traction here. A lot of the smaller altcoins are tethering off or not keeping up. So again, we'll continue to analyze it at the moment. Again, you see a break on that 50% mark, it's good to probably bet that altcoins are going to probably outpace the market in this case. But again, not financial advice. You guys got to determine it for yourself in that case. But I'm going to be keeping an eye on that as an indicator. I think it's very important. Going on here, let's go ahead and talk about the technicals here. We talked about our lines of resistance, where Bitcoin has turned not only broken out past the first line of resistance on the downtrend, which we saw back in November and December, but along with that, we were able to hold support on the second line of resistance on Bitcoin, getting above that 50-day moving average, which you can see was holding down price here for the past few days. Good to see in the short term. Long-term trend, again, guys, still not absolutely sold on it yet, but it is good to see in the short term here that we look like we have no major key levels of resistance up until this range and or the 100-day moving average, as the 50-day was holding resistance. And that's been my target since back here a few weeks ago. I was talking about how the major thing I want to see is this the upper $4,000 range, testing towards hopefully a big even of 5,000, and it'll probably experience rejection with this 100-day coming down to that key level. Again, the stars tend to align sometimes with price in the sense of indicators kind of coming together. And 5,000 is a big even level. So from this range, we could really see Bitcoin make some good price moves in that case. But at the same time, again, not trying to trade it too excessively. I think if you, for example, want to kind of get out of exposure in a lot of altcoins, I know, for example, when prices go up to this range, you're probably going to see altcoins carry higher as well and outpace Bitcoin. Might be a good time as well to kind of reallocate your portfolio and figure out what you want to do long term. But again, can't give you guys financial advice in that case. But my whole thing is that I'm going to be definitely trying to restructure my portfolio, seeing where we are, seeing where the momentum is. The thing that I want to see for me to really get bullish long term is to really see a spike in volume here, higher than what we were seeing on some of these peak buying days here. And I honestly don't think we're going to see that. I will take it to Coinbase here just to get a picture outside of Bitfinex. I really don't trust much of the data I'm going to get from Bitfinex. But in this case, again, Coinbase had some good volume here during the buy phase here from the rebound off 3,200, but I need to see some serious rapid volume to even consider that this is going to be a longer term uptrend. And until then, I'm thinking that this is going to go to 5,000, get rejected, and probably come back down. So, that's why I'm saying it's just more of a short term move. One thing, as I was mentioning as well, not only are people really excited about what's going on with Ethereum here, we can see Ethereum is testing up towards this 100-day. I have no doubt with this being at the highs here, this will probably break through with Bitcoin breaking above its 50-day. I think it's just a matter of time. And then that this is probably going to test up towards either first, it's going to test towards this range, which was previous support here for Ethereum. And if it can get above that, I think you're going all the way to the 200-day. But again, we'll have to wait for this to pop up and stuff, and then let the momentum really carry into it. Same goes with like XRP. Let's get the USD chart up here. Again, I think this could come up and test the moving averages, test to some of the higher levels around here that we've seen before, and maybe even test up towards this range of resistance here that we saw back in September. It's declined definitely a little bit with the momentum in XRP kind of slowing off ever since Swirl, but XRP's momentum play, it would be wrong to doubt that it might make a move. One thing I want to talk about as well is some people are pointing out on Coinbase, Litecoin leading the market. I think this is going to probably come up to its 200-day. Look at that, testing towards that level, which was support for a while. As this continues to decline, I think Litecoin could test in that $50, $55 range over the next few days. Again, if it keeps this momentum up in the volume, that's definitely good to see. Wouldn't be too far-fetched to really guess that would happen. So again, keep an eye on that, but not doing any crazy technical analysis, just short-term kind of general ranges that I'm watching in that case. But I really don't think there's enough steam in this market yet for a crazy altcoin cycle, so I wouldn't get too caught up in that. But outside of markets, guys, again, markets are relatively exciting right now. We've got some double-digit point growth here on some of the major altcoins, for example, like Litecoin and Ethereum and Ripple in this case. There's some definite green moves in this market over the past few weeks. But one thing that really excites me, and one thing that I think people have wanted me to talk a little bit more about, is the technology development in the space. Now, I want to make a point clear. I don't tend to talk too much about the technology in the space because there's a lot of projects that are a lot of talk, guys, and I think that's become more apparent. I really try to save my tech talk for things that really excite me, and Wimble is one of those. Now, I won't be able to exactly detail in good words. I think I'm going to probably do a video, and if you guys find it interesting after this, if you'd like me to do a video, I can work towards producing a tech-based video talking about Wimble, because I think you guys will find it fascinating. But I won't be able to precisely explain in key terms what Wimble is. But we will go through and learn about some of the properties that it brings, and also some very exciting news that there is the first ever cryptocurrency to publicly announce that they're utilizing Wimble, which makes huge strides and advantages for privacy, for fungibility, for a lot of features that we'll discuss in just a little bit. So this first cryptocurrency, many people first thought that Gren was going to be the first one that used it, but they're actually still working towards implementing it. We actually saw a cryptocurrency known as Beam come out and become the first privacy cryptocurrency to actually implement Wimble technology. So this has got a lot of people, even used Jameson Loop here, really a decent guy and stuff in the space. A lot of other tech savvy people who have been watching Wimble since back in 2017 to be implemented on Bitcoin are excited to see that some protocols actually integrating this technology with all of its great features. So, seeing as we've got this excitement coming in, what justifies it? What is Wimble to a degree? Well, Wimble adds a boatload of features here. I guess if you guys want to look through the GitHub as well, this is Beam's GitHub. I just wanted to put it up there for you guys as a source. I'll leave a link down below. Wimble, even though it has a very silly name, is a very important deal. Bitcoin itself as a cryptocurrency is imperfect. I know. Bitcoin maximalists are probably foaming at the mouth when I say that. But as someone who is a big fan of Bitcoin and who was a big fan of the white paper for Bitcoin and still where it stands today and what it stands for personally on a moral level, Wimble fixes a lot of the issues that Bitcoin still has. A lot of people think Bitcoin is private. It is not private. It is highly traceable, and it struggles with issues of fungibility, not just out of the transactions being on a public ledger, but how the transactions are recorded. So Wimble fixes a lot of these. It allows you to have optional transparency, but from the get-go treats it as if transactions should be private, and you get to choose what you get to share, which again, is going to be a key feature for digital currency in the future. If we want digital cash to become a thing, right? This is what we're trying to build, is digital cash, and cash is privacy first, right? You don't have to really report on cash in that case. So that's an important feature in this case. And we'll learn how Wimble, again, I really recommend, this is actually an older article back from April 30th of 2017 on CoinDesk. Really recommend you read through it, though. It's still highly relevant. And it shows you that, we've had these technological ideas for a while. The white paper's been out for a while for Wimble, but it takes time to actually integrate these into technology. And there's a great diagram here that will explain technically how to do it. And again, I'll maybe reference back to this if I do an official video. Again, leave a comment if you guys would like to see it. But I want to go ahead and talk really about the big picture here. Talk about some of the key features that come with it. So freedom of choice, as I mentioned, optional transparency. I think about this very similar to how Monero, for example, gives you, I think it's a public or private view key, which is basically where if I send a transaction to someone, the only two people in the world who know the amount and who is the receiver and sender is obviously the receiver and sender. But what's nice is that, like I think a private view key, you can actually give them a key to view the transaction and its data. And this is something very similar to that, but it allows you to be variable about what information you share, which is very important. Maybe, for example, in the future, I might, for example, want to prove a transaction in a dispute or something, and I can showcase my transaction, even though on the public ledger, no one can see it. And that's very important. On Bitcoin, I can share that a transaction has happened, but the whole world can see it. And if they know that I did that, then now they won't know my address and they know all my other transactions because of how Bitcoin's transactions are recorded. And that also goes to the point of fungibility as well down here. Some of these things like ease of equal access. This is something about the GRIN implementation. Again, this was a topic for a while ago, but in this case, in the case of fungibility, this is another big issue in regards to how Bitcoin's transactions are processed. And it also speaks, I like how they pointed this out here, that there's a whole thing called coin-based transactions, which is basically where people pay a premium for Bitcoins that have been newly mined, because the only way, a lot of people talk about cryptocurrency being used to launder money or to do transactions excessively private. The only way you could really do a private transaction on Bitcoin is to get coin-based transactions or newly mined Bitcoin in a block that have been generated that have no transaction history, and to send it to a wallet address that no one knows who they are in that case, right? That's the only way you could stay anonymous on Bitcoin. And it's still, even with that, there's some concerns about it being fully anonymous. But again, in this case, this is something that is fixed in the sense of fungibility, that, one Bitcoin is equal to one Bitcoin in this case, if you were to implement it, or in the case of Beam, in this case, one Beam is equal to one Beam. Now, Bitcoin is obviously equal to Bitcoin. Yes, that's true in a market value. Like, you could sell a Bitcoin on an exchange and they're probably going to be the same value. But the thing about it is it has to do with the transaction history to it, and also how Bitcoin uses inputs and outputs. It's, again, a little bit more of a technical talk for another time, but these are really big issues that Wimble is going to fix. And I'm very excited to see it. I'm someone who's always believed that in the future, we're going to have to find a crossroads, a middle ground in a sense, for cryptocurrencies to be used in the mainstream. And not everyone is private centric like this, but I do believe that at the core of all major cryptocurrencies, there is going to have to be privacy features for most people, because cryptocurrencies are not really going to be adopted in the West first. They may be used in the future, and they will be speculated on. But the people who really need this are in emerging markets. I've been talking about the case in Venezuela with Dash. Why is Dash loved by people in Venezuela? There's private send. You have the fixed monetary policy, and you also have all these features in the sense of what people in these countries need, because they can't get it provided by their government. Their governments are too corrupt. Their central banks are mismanaging in regards to monetary policy. And Wimble is just another addition to sell cryptocurrencies as an optimal solution. So I'm really excited to see that. And I'm going to keep on with the development, not only of Beam, congratulations to them on that and what Grin's doing as well, but I'm excited to see if this technology works properly, if it can continue to grow, and if people really get behind it. I'm excited. So definitely keep an eye on it, guys. If you want, again, like I mentioned, I'll do a video on this, but I'll leave these links down below if you guys would like to read into it further. But in the interest of time, I'm definitely going to keep it short here and not ramble on too much. Going on, I want to spend some time to actually talk about a really interesting piece out of crypto news that talked about how Circle, one of the major OTC trading desks here in the West for cryptocurrencies, had an average transaction volume of $2 million in 2018. So meaning that for the average weight of transactions that were going on the network, that around 2 million was being transacted. And that's a astonishing number, even for OTC desks, that we expect to have a larger amount. Now, OTC, for example, is quite flexible. You don't have to be some big whale to trade OTC. You could be trading a whopping $1 billion in value, but you could also be transferring $20,000 or $10,000, or even, I think in some cases, some exchanges will allow you to do just a few thousand, like in the lower range from the numbers that I mentioned. So It's very interesting to see some of these bigger orders coming in. And again, this is an average. This means that there were orders that were tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions. And I've met many people in the OTC space. They've kind of talked about how the space is doing, roughly speaking, from what they can tell me. And they're really great people and stuff. It's very interesting to see how this space is built up and how institutions use this as an entry gateway. But again, I just thought it was a really interesting data point. Circle, again, there's a good quote here that really talks about being one of the core liquidity providers. They've played a major role. They're a Boston-based company. I didn't get to go, sadly, tour their office when I went there, but I got to talk with people in Boston. They were talking about how of all the things they're doing, the people they're hiring. It's really exciting stuff. And it shows you that there is some form of institutional interest in crypto. It's not... to the degree, I think, that some people think, and some people think, for example, that crypto has no institutional adoption. Again, thinking in a non-black and white way. This is more of a place where people who are trading on hedge funds, people who are trading on kind of like offshore capital, in a sense, would go to in this case, and they want to do it properly. Circle would be the platform they would go to in that case. And that could be tens, hundreds of millions of dollars, and in the grand scheme of things, it equates to tens of billions of dollars, in the long term. We have more about an equivalent amount of volume being processed in OTC markets than we do on spot markets and BitMEX. So that's telling in that case, with leveraged exchanges and spot markets getting outweighed by OTC. It's a lot, much less traders, but much more capital in the process. Alrighty, so interesting stuff, both on the institutional side and the technical side of crypto. Going on to traditional markets here, I want to spend some time to talk about the major swings we've been seeing. People have been talking in the media about how this year, for the first time in like over a decade since back in 2007 and 2008, we're finally starting to see the 2% to 3% drops on a daily basis, the 2 to 3% increases in the indices across the board for the stock market. And this is a very common sign of entering into a recession when you have massive uncertainty prolonged over a long period of time, or volatility in this case. So this is a chart here that show the percentage moves on a daily basis here. It actually might just, I'm wondering if this is on a weekly basis, but it looks like it's on a daily here with how many candles we're getting per month. But you can see here on the Bloomberg source that this year things have been really picking up. We've been seeing these 3% leaps much more commonly, 2% leaps very frequently. And this goes hand in hand. This is volatility at its core, but you can see a big shift. Something is changing here in regards to the market fundamentals. And I think this is, again, going back to what we've been talking about. As much as stock buybacks have been able to keep this market on life support, you have massive outflows from hedge funds. You have massive outflows from institutional money. If you look at the smart money flow index, if you look at institutional selling, people in these companies who work, who own shares in their own company, what they're doing when there's record stock buybacks, they're selling, they're getting out. They're using that as their exit ticket, in a sense, to get out of the market. And people who don't get that are buying at these highs. We're on the course, I think, for a good 40 to 50% correction in 2019 and into 2020 as well. But some people still just don't see this. They're kind of blindsided by it. So in this case, again, the thing I always tell people to keep an eye on is, more than anything, sorry, my text didn't show up there for a second, is the VIX. Now, one thing that's very important to point out here that we were talking about is seeing if the VIX would hold on this level here in January. And this is why I'm quite confident that in the short term, we're going to probably see a little bit of a relief rally. The thing I've been pointing out to people, we talked about it in my newsletter, for example, the thing to watch is whether or not it was going to hold here. And if we did hold and we had a breakout, then all hell would have broke loose in markets. And we would have seen some 2008 style volatility and sell-off. But we did break through here. So the thing I'm watching for now is for this to hopefully circulate through this channel here, to hold on this line that's slightly declining over time, but still holds around that same support range, and maybe hold on the 200-day. If it still does that, I think that's going to prove further that we're continuing on to this recession later down the road in Q1 and Q2 of 2019. But in the short term, we might be seeing a little bit of relief. You can still have volatility and have up days. But in this case, we're seeing a diminishment of volatility because there is less big of fluctuations than what we were seeing back a few days ago in this case. So again, it's more tended you'll find in sell-offs, the volatility increases. So anyways, in this case, very important index to watch. Volatility tells all. In this case, if you just look at it, look at the lines of support and resistance that it's showing, it's a very good index. It's definitely one of the things I recommend anyone who's trading or investing should watch. Alrighty, so Vancouver very desired place to live. Vancouver's a beautiful area. Definitely one of the major cities in Canada who have seen, or sorry, one of the major areas in Canada that have seen huge demand for real estate. And over the past, few months, it's become very apparent that a lot of that boom that was coming through is now starting to turn into bust. And we can go ahead and take a look at the chart here. Over the past few years, or more than a decade of action in regards to condo sales in Canada, and just look at the decline here. We haven't seen these levels since back here in 2012 and in 2008 here. So I think this is setting the tone for real estate markets. If it hasn't become apparent already, there has been a lot of panic starting to settle into the housing market. We can see here, for example, Vancouver starting to have a clear decline in 2018 from the average price per square foot in this case, going down almost $200. So sending some clear signals here, guys. It's not something that you need to get really panicky over in this case, but it's something to take into account here. The monthly inventory is spiking up here. When you have more inventory on market, it's a buyer's market. They get to wait. They're like, no, I want a cheaper price. Mortgage rate's too high. I'm waiting, Again, you're having the unfavorable things come up here for sellers. So, and you can see as well, total housing and construction is starting to tip over. The home builders are cutting operations. It's not a builder's market. It's not a seller's market. It is a buyer's market in this case, and they're waiting patiently. So, again, very common signs here, guys. So we're going through a cycle in this case. The thing I'd say to keep an eye on is what happens in some of these areas like Vancouver that have had huge housing run-ups, like in Australia and some of the cities here in the United States that have multi-million-dollar condo property valuations. You're going to start to see this drop quite dramatically. And I think it's going to take a good year or two to really flush out. But what'll be nice is if for those of you out there who are looking for real estate or looking to buy a property, it'll be the time in the next few, probably a year or so in regards to buying a property. I know I'll be buying one then, but I'm going to be waiting for a nice correction in the housing market in this case. So just an interesting thing I thought I'd bring up just to show you guys what happens when just how restrictive the tightening of liquidity can be on such a market, where just a few months ago, really about a year ago in 2018, things were looking so optimistic in the housing market. It was like free money was going everywhere, but now the tone has changed, and it looks like we're finally getting that shift that I started to get worried about in 2018, where we start to hit more towards bear market territory. So going into 2020, it's going to be very, very interesting, guys. I'm excited. But anyways, that's it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys are having a great day. Again, if you guys liked what we talked about here today, not only give the video a thumbs up if you can, but also leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear what you guys think about what we talked about, but also if we missed anything, please feel free to leave it in the comments and get a discussion going. Anyways, that's it for the video, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. Until the next one, I'll see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.